My name is Iris Ringer, and I'm the program manager for the Brian Grant Foundation. So it's a pleasure to be here with you all tonight. We have Katrina Call, our executive director, is also
Hello.
here.
Thanks for joining.
And Nicole Aliotti, who is our development director. She is manning the chat, and she's here tonight as well. So that makes up our Brian Grant Foundation staff. And the Brian Grant Foundation, we're here located in Portland, Oregon. And we are in our 11th year of supporting people with Parkinson's. We were founded by Brian Grant, an NBA player who was diagnosed with Parkinson's at the age of 36. And he played here in Portland for many years. And yeah, so we focus on exercise and nutrition and mental health, especially in this time of the pandemic and our staying at home, really trying to connect people. So happy to see you all tonight. So our Kids of Parkinson's program was established last year in 2020. Brian has some wonderful children. So Katrina, Nicole, and I partnered with some of his kids to create this Kids of Parkinson's program. And it's really meant for you all to support you who have a parent with Parkinson's. It's a unique group. You're not living with the disease, but of course you have an integral part in your parents' life. So you have, you may be taking care of them. You may be thinking about your future, their future, have a lot of different questions. And this Kids of Parkinson's program is a real opportunity to support you all. So whether we're doing things like this in the evening over Zoom, or if we're trying to meet in person in Portland eventually, we're trying to get people together, share your stories. We had our first event last year, and it was just awesome in person to have people connect and just kind of learn about each other's parents, what you're going through, what they're going through. So we hope that you find this valuable. I think that we have quite a few people logged in. So I think we'll just go ahead and start. Whoops, participants. I'm going to try to do tech and facilitate here. So tonight for our Kids of Parkinson's Roundtable, we have Jaydon Grant, if you want to do a little wave. We have Mike McCastle and Manju Bangalore. So they're coming to you tonight to talk about their stories and their journey with their parent who has Parkinson's. So I will, we're going to kind of go around this screen, if you will, and we'll start with Jaydon. So Jaydon, why don't you tell us a little about who you are, what you're doing these days, and kind of the story of your dad.
Yeah, of course. First off, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming on tonight. I know it really means a lot to all of us here at the foundation and all of us involved tonight. So thank you for your time. So my name is Jaydon Grant. Like Iris said, I'm one of Brian's many kids. I go to Oregon State. I actually just finished my undergrad in new media communications this past spring, and now I'm in my master's studying business analytics. So I'm on my 5th year. I also play football at Oregon State too. So yeah, but part of my story, I should say not just my story, but my family story, because I feel like I'm not just speaking for myself, and I'm speaking for my siblings, all my siblings. Part of our story is, I say back in 2008, 12 years ago now, 13 years ago now, just coming home from school one day, and I remember our parents, bringing us all together and sitting us down and having a serious talk with us. And that's when they told us, your father has Parkinson's. We were just young kids at the time. At first, our initial reaction, we really didn't know what it was. All they told us was that it's a disease that, there's no cure. Muhammad Ali has it, Michael J. Fox has it. So for us at first, it really wasn't, we really didn't know anything. We were just too young. We were kids. And then, you start going to school, you kind of start hearing the whispers, from different people as news goes public. I remember when I was a kid, I had people, used to come up to me, is your dad okay? Is your dad in a wheelchair? Can your dad do this? Can your dad do that? And meanwhile, I didn't know what to tell him, because I mean, I thought my father was perfectly fine, but just, you know, as you grow older, realizing, you know, that he has a disease that, you know, like I said, there's no cure. So I'll probably say when I was a junior and sophomore in high school is really, you know, when I got most involved as far as my being a support system for my father, you know, helping for. That's when I realized, you know, how much he values and how much we all value the Brian Grant Foundation, because I was able to see at firsthand, you know, how much his fitness and how much his, you know, how healthy he ate really helped with his progression with Parkinson's. And I'm not just talking about, you know, how much his hands shaking, but I'm talking about, you know, how many rainy days he has, you know, how many times that, you know, the depression gets to him where he just doesn't want to do anything. And, you know, I might have to be that, you know, spark to help pick him up or help get him to go do something. So I don't want to go too much in depth. I know that, you know, we'll all be sharing stories here tonight, but that's a little bit about, you know, my story, you know, with Parkinson's and being, you know, a supportive son for my father. And also not just a supportive son for my father, but a supportive brother, you know, to my sisters and to my other brothers, you know, who are going through the same things that I do.
That's great. Thank you, Jaydon. All right, Manju.
Hi, everyone. My name is Manju Bangalore. A little bit about me. I got my physics degree from the University of Oregon. I was a trader because I'm from Corvallis, but I got my degree from the University of Oregon in physics in 2018. I'm working on my master's right now in aerospace engineering. And then what I do outside of school, I run 2 nonprofits. One is Operation Period. We just celebrated our 6-year anniversary. We're a menstrual health nonprofit, and we're a youth-led organization. And then I also just started painting with Parkinson's, which is how I got connected with the Brian Grant Foundation, which I'm so thankful for. And we provide free painting kits and art classes to those with Parkinson's. So my dad has Parkinson's. He's had it for over a decade. He initially, my parents didn't tell us that he had Parkinson's. So we were like 8 or 9, and we'd be in a hurry to school or in a hurry to our piano lessons or whatever. And my dad would be taking more time to walk or to get into the car. And we'd be like, Dad, you're so slow. You're a grandpa. Like we'd start making fun of him because that's the type of children we were. It wasn't great. And then it came to our realization a bit later, a few years later, my dad ended up telling us that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's. And it was not easy, even as a child, understanding the repercussions of your words and actions. And that was probably the first time that I was like, okay, words really do matter. Fast forwarding into high school, one of the most pivotal moments in my high school career was when it was senior year of high school, and my dad was presenting an award to the senior class, to a senior class member on behalf of the Rotary Club. And as many of y'all know, with Parkinson's, people can freeze. And my dad went through a freezing episode on stage, and it was for a couple minutes. And I was sitting in the audience and didn't know what to do. I was hoping someone like the moderator would come, the MC would come help him, or help him finish his script or something. But instead, no one came to his aid. And it was a few minutes later and he started getting booed. And I did not know what to do. I was 16 at the time, and I just started bawling my eyes out because that was like my first reaction. And later I went on to Twitter and did a whole thread about how ableist it was of people to have that reaction when someone's going through something that pertains to their disability. And a lot of people ended up apologizing, but that was one of the moments where I was like, we really need to advocate for people with Parkinson's, people with other disabilities, and bring more awareness to what the disability actually looks like and the diagnosis actually looks like, because I think people have this one conception of it, and it's not always the case. So my dad, the reason that I ended up starting painting with Parkinson's is because my dad, he has his PhD in crop science, and my parents run a small seed lab out of Tangent, Oregon. But my dad's always been an artist. He's always drawn portraits, and they're so beautiful. They're the best portraits I've ever seen. And I noticed that after he got diagnosed, he started losing touch with his artistic side. So I started doing some research into how painting and drawing can help people with Parkinson's in terms of their different attributes that come from Parkinson's. And it turns out that art therapy is real for people with Parkinson's, and it can really help them. So thankfully to the Brian Grant Foundation, we were able to get started up, and it's been so great to partner with y'all and get to work with y'all. And so we're up and running. We just had our first painting class this last Saturday. We host them the first Saturday of every month. And it's been really beautiful to watch people connect with their artistic side, because we all have a creative side and we all should use it. So
did your dad participate?
Yeah, he actually just did a second painting yesterday, and he was like, look, I did something. And I was like, oh, that's so exciting. Yeah. So we sent out the painting kits. It was really beautiful to watch.
And with that, you have a artist who leads the Zoom call.
Yeah, we have 2 artist teachers who lead them. They're actually artist teachers at OSU in the Craft Center that have lended their volunteer time.
Yeah, I saw when we shared it, we saw it on social media. The paintings were just beautiful. It was abstract. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very, very.
All right.
Okay, sorry. I think we just lost when I was trying to add somebody. So I will just jump in and say we will move on to Mike McCastle.
I'm back.
Mike.
I got
okay.
I think you. Okay, Mike.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Mike McCastle. Really glad to be a part of this, and thank you for this opportunity. So I'm an air traffic controller by trade. That's my job. I also, in 2014, I started a charitable initiative called 12 Labors Project, where I do these extreme strength endurance challenges to bring awareness to causes that I'm passionate about, one of them being Parkinson's disease. I grew up with my dad who had it. My dad has since passed in 2014. Is part of the reason why I started this initiative. And my dad had Parkinson's as long as I could remember. Growing up, it was pretty mild up until I remember one distinct moment. Me and my dad used to go fishing. That was one of the things he really loved to do together with me. He loved to fish, and we would go fishing. One day he was, slower than usual. The tremors were a little bit more than usual. He couldn't bait the hook was the thing, and he always baited the hook. That was one of the things he always did. And this particular time, I remember getting so frustrated that I just baited his hook for him, not thinking too much of it, because when you see the symptoms every single day, you don't realize how the change is. It's more gradual than someone on the outside looking in. So to me, it was just like, what's going on? And that day was just particularly hard on him because he couldn't, he kept getting the lines tangled, things that he normally could do just effortlessly. On this particular day was very challenging for him. And I could tell it, I could see it. There was this, it's almost like he lost this spark that was in his eye that day, because he knew that he was losing this one thing that he'd love to do with his son. It's one of the few things, and the disease at that point was now taking that, and I could just tell he was really trying to hold on to that. And on the way home, we had to stop at the bank, and he had he froze in the bank. I remember he froze in the bank. His steps got really small and started losing his balance. And I just remember being 8, 9 years old, hearing like the people murmuring under their breath, and getting angry, as if he was inconveniencing them. He was about to fall. And I just remember giving the death stare to everyone. I just gave everybody the death stare. At the time, I was like, don't look at my dad like that. But at the same time, he just stayed really calm. And, even at some points, he was kind of smiling about it until it came time for him to write a check. And he couldn't write the check. He couldn't sign his name on the signature on the check. And that's really the first time that I saw him show a lot of emotion. And from that point on, the disease just kind of progressed very rapidly. And in high school, it was just he and I were just living together. He and I kind of had to go from just a, you know, high school kid playing basketball, playing football, playing basketball. Then I had to stop doing those things and just kind of take care of him full time because, you know, coming home from practice, he would, you know, I'd find him like on the floor. He'd just be stuck on the floor. So it's like, okay, something had to give. It's just him and me. So I just decided to give those things up to take care of him. And that was pretty challenging for me. You know, the jokes from the friends and things like that, people not really understanding. And he told me, he said, you know, I'm going through some changes. There are going to be some things that not everybody's going to understand. And he said, you can't control what other people think, can't control what other people say. You just got to, you know, just keep a good attitude about it. And that's one of the things I took away from him. And I really, back then, what drew me to the Brian Grant Foundation was the tools that the Brian Grant Foundation has, especially that targets exercise. The tools that I wish I had back then to help him. I just didn't know what to do. I felt helpless. I was kind of just watching this disease progress, and I didn't know what to do. All I did was I gave him his medication, and there's nothing I could really else I could do. And I wish I had some of these tools that the programs, the online classes, and that, you know, with the nutrition and the exercise. I wish I had that then. And so after I, you know, graduated high school, I went into the service, went to the Navy. Got into fitness, started being, you know, I became an exercise professional myself during that time, started training, really got into that. And I really dedicated myself doing the research on how exercise can really help people with Parkinson's, and went on to teach a Parkinson's class, non-contact boxing, things like that. And I started 12 Labors Project and to raise awareness for Parkinson's disease. And one of the first challenges I did was I climbed a rope for 27 hours straight. It was 29,029 feet for the height of Mount Everest. And I did that to raise awareness and funds for Parkinson's disease. But I really did that because that rope was kind of like that holding on. I just remember my dad trying to hold on to those things that he loved the most. And me holding on to that rope kind of symbolized that. So, and then most recently, I did a challenge. I sat in some ice for a little bit, and
just a little bit,
yeah.
Almost 3 hours.
And yeah, so that's what brought me to Brian Grant Foundation. I'm glad to participate and be here with you all. So
absolutely. And the ice, I think you were explaining, represents freezing in Parkinson's.
Freezing symptoms, yeah, rigidity.
And do you have your next challenge, your next effort?
My challenge right now is just trying to get my feet. My feet are still a little frostbitten, so I guess the challenge now is just trying to not lose my toes right now.
Recover, yeah. That's good. Well, thank you all for that. I think Jade and Manju, if you guys want to unmute and Mike unmute, then we can, maybe then all of us can have, there we go. So I hope that you all, enjoyed their initial stories about their parents, and maybe you found some things that you can relate to. Let's see, I guess for each of you, what support do you provide now with your parent? What's your role in your family dynamic today? I'm looking at you, Manju.
Okay, all right. Couldn't tell.
I know.
So my mom is probably like the primary caregiver in our house. I pre-corona split my time between Oregon and LA because I also act down there. So when I am home, I am the one taking my dad to appointments, usually taking him to the support groups, that type of thing. Now a lot of things are virtual outside of the doctor's appointments. Yeah, I'm the one that's usually taking him because my mom is trying to run the labs that they run together. And then my dad can no longer drive due to his Parkinson's. So if there's any errands that we need to do that my mom can't assist him with, then I'm usually the one that takes him and stuff. So that's my role.
And do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger brother. He's in college at OSU right now, so he's pretty preoccupied with that. But he tries to help out when he can as well.
Yeah. Jaydon?
My family, I mean, it's kind of like a group effort. I mean, my pops is still, fortunately able to do a lot of things on his own still. So I say just our taking care of him, our support for him is just kind of like being there for him. Like I said, my brother said it good the other day. He said just being able to be available for him, whether
Mhm.
it's, enjoying a good day or going through a bad day, just being there for him, and just being able to have open, conversations with my father. That's what he really enjoys and really appreciates, is open conversations, open honest,
Mhm.
conversations with him. And I mean, yeah, that's pretty much how we support him now. I mean, there's always a little thing, if his trimmer is going crazy or something like that, and he needs us to grab something for him, or if he needs us to do whatever for him. We're always doing little things for him like that.
Is there usually somebody with him at all times?
Well, yeah, Elijah lives in the house now, so now he has somebody in there at all times.
Mm-hmm. And Mike, what about you? Your role obviously it was like the role.
Yeah, I was with him at all times. If I wasn't in school, I was there with him. Um, it would have been nice to have kind of like that support group, like other people who are kind of going through the same thing, so I can kind of bounce ideas off of how to do things better, do things more efficiently, and just kind of just share experiences. That would have been nice to have with my dad. Going through that. But yeah, just being there with him, good days and the bad. He joked a lot about it, but good days were good, but then bad days were bad. Bad days were bad,
Mm-hmm.
and I just kind of take the highs with the lows with it. And, being a teenager, being young, I was frustrated a lot. I was angry a lot, and it would have been nice for me to have, someone to kind of vent to about it. But I just felt like no one else really understood, the whole thing. So,
Do
absolutely.
you have siblings?
I did. But all my siblings are spread all across the country. So at the time, my dad had me very late. So my dad had me like well into his 50s. I was like his last hoorah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my siblings are a lot older than me, spread all over the place. But yeah, I would talk to them. Yeah, talk to my siblings to help, sharing that.
Someone just asked Mike if your dad went into an adult family home eventually.
No. So I took care of him up until I graduated. Then I went into the Navy, and then he went with his oldest daughter in Chicago, and she
Okay.
kind of took over that role, and he lived with her up until he passed. So
Okay.
fortunately, he had some family to be with.
I think you all seemed to be about 8 or 9 when your parent was diagnosed. I think that was a theme I just realized. And that's hard. I mean, you're just a young child trying to, yeah, I can't imagine. That's second, third grade. So you're so young. And do you think that you noticed anything with your parent before you actually knew the diagnosis?
I actually didn't. I can't remember really noticing anything.
Yeah.
There's days that I've always noticed days where my dad just wants to sit on the couch and watch movies and stuff all day, or mood changes and stuff like that. But back then, I couldn't really notice anything. Like I said, when he told us, we didn't even know what it was really.
Yeah, I think that your dad has a very unique story too, in that he had just retired from the NBA. So, with anyone being in your 30s, being diagnosed with a disease, it's you're trying to, and as a young father still, he had a lot to try to figure out, like, is this the disease? Am I retired? Trying to find that path. And of course, then be a father and a caregiver to your own children. Yeah. I know Brian's talked about that a lot. So it's, yeah. And if anyone has any questions and they feel comfortable, you can unmute and ask your question to the panel right now too. I'm trying to catch up with some of the questions on the side as well. So, and so what do you think about for your futures in terms of yourself and also for your parent? I'll start with Jaydon.
Future, well, For myself personally, like I said, I'm here. I'm in grad school at Oregon State. So hopefully in the next year or so, finish up, my master's in business analytics. That'll be a pretty big accomplishment for me. And then also just playing football. Hopefully plan to play football in the National Football League. Hopefully enter next year's draft. So that's pretty exciting. And then
Oh yeah.
with my pops and my pops and the family and the foundation, really just keeping him on routines. Right now he's on a good routine right now, just waking up at a certain time, working out. He has a support group as well, but just working out, whether that's riding the bike, whether that's walking, whether that's doing whatever he chooses to do for that day, but just being consistent. And just I realize it doesn't have to always be a huge thing that you do. It's the little things. I just realized, how much he appreciates, when my siblings and I said, like, hey, Dad, like, we see you, we know what you're going through, and you still choose to continue to put your best foot forward and continue to keep fighting. You may get knocked down 9 times, but you're going to get up 10 times. Just being able to acknowledge that, also acknowledging his struggle, and just, let him know how proud we are of him to continue to persevere and to continue to push through adversity. That really means a lot to him. So just, not always having to be a big thing, but just continuing to support him and encourage him, much like he's done for a lot of us.
Just a little shout out, a little text message. Hey, Dad, how's it going? Yeah.
Just whenever I see him.
Let's see, Mike. Yeah, what do you think for your future?
Yeah, for my future, I plan to still, I plan to, knock the rest of these labors out. I got some plans for that. I want to get these challenges underway, raise some more, do some more things with the Brian Grant Foundation in the future, and just keep setting goals. Like, one thing my dad taught me was, even though he was going through all this, the challenges he was going through, he was always setting goals. He was still actively trying to get back to where he was, trying to do things. He kept his, even though, he kept his fishing poles in the car. Like, he kept the poles,
He was ready.
Bait on the hooks. Like, he kept those in the car. And like, I'm like, Dad, you haven't been fishing, like, it's been like 6 years. And he's so started, he'd be like, where I go, my poles go with me. Where I go, my poles go. He was always wanting it. Like, it was one day he was going to get back to it. So, for me, it's like, no, that mindset, just no finish line. Just keep chasing my goals and knocking these labors out. I plan to, take all these tools that I've learned with the exercise. I want to continue to instruct, people with Parkinson's, try to get them back through fitness, through exercise, through living a more healthy lifestyle, and take these tools that I wish I had back then and start applying them more in depth now and into the future. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. And Manju?
I have a couple of goals for my future. I don't know if they'll work out, but that's why they're goals. One of them is to become an astronaut. So I'm hoping, I interned at NASA 5 times. So I got to see firsthand, like, the experiences of, like, astronauts and what their day-to-day was and stuff like that. So I'd love to apply to the astronaut corps in 5-10 years, see how that works out. And ironically, one of the ways that I'm maintaining, like, my physical fitness and that side of things, because that's super important for the astronaut corps, is I'm doing pageants. I've been doing pageants since I was, like, in high school, but right now I'm competing for Miss Oregon USA. So that's March 21st.
Ooh.
And so, yeah, I'm super excited about that. If I win, I'll get to compete at Miss USA.
Wow.
And with that platform, hopefully I'll be able to, amplify the work of Brian Grant Foundation, of my own orgs and other orgs that are doing really incredible work in Oregon and beyond Oregon. So yeah, and then I'd like to keep acting and see where that goes. I've gotten to do some really cool stuff in the acting space, so just continue that.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of my dad, I think it's like Jaydon and Mike said, where you just want to be there for the person and help them in any way you can, show encouragement. My dad often just says, like, him being able to talk to me is, like, really important to him, and just open up about his day or about his week. So all of that, just, supporting him and being an outlet for him is how I see it. And then also helping him exercise more frequently. We have a treadmill at home, so just getting him on that treadmill and like walking every now and then, just stuff like that, or doing like home workouts together with my mom, stuff like that are family bonding and pro exercise and fitness.
And for you all, where do you find support in terms of if you have worry about what is Parkinson's, what's your dad or parent experiencing? Do you, who do you lean on? Manju?
Yeah, I don't think I really had a community before this. Like, that's why I'm like, I literally can't say enough good things about the Brian Grant Foundation. Like, I'm so thankful for, like the kids, the Parkinson's groups, and just being included in the community, because I've taken my dad to support groups in Corvallis, and those have been helpful to an extent, but they're just like that hour and then it kind of fades out, and there's no one, like a lot of the caregivers don't come, or if they do, they're just dropping and picking up the patient. So it's nice to be able to connect with people like Jaydon and Mike. And I want to shout out Mike, because I watched your IG live. That was super incredible what you did 2 Saturdays ago. Insane. So it's cool being able to meet other people who are in the same position and, get to learn from them and talk to them.
Mm-hmm. Jaydon?
I'd say my support system is just my family. Lucky for me, it's 9 of us, kids. So just my family, and we used to be under the same roof all at the same time, growing up. So that was really big for us, just always being together. I can remember times that we just had our own private conversations. Mom or my dad never heard, just talking about our own fears and our own worries. I think it was important, those conversations were important, so that obviously we weren't going through it alone. But, it can feel like that sometimes, because you can feel so helpless. The world can get so dark sometimes. So just my family, like I said, fortunately we have a big family.
And Mike?
There was obviously being there for my dad, be that support system for him, because it was just him and I. There's a question in here. Someone asked. It was I think the question was I'll read it here. It says, "Thank you for sharing your stories. Have you experienced your dad's partner, caregiver, perhaps your mom, treating your dad really poorly as his disease progressed, such as bitterness towards being condemned to care for someone with Parkinson's instead of being free to travel, etc. in retirement?" And when I was, so for me, my dad always had Parkinson's growing up, and it was really gradual till I was about 8 or 9. So it's like I was clueless too. Like I didn't notice until, again, like when I was 8 or 9, then I started to really see, like, okay, something's really wrong. During that same time, my dad and my mother were going through a divorce. And so that was, particularly hard, and just having that support system. So that's why when I had made the decision to kind of quit the basketball team and quit sports and stuff to take care of my dad, like, it was a tough decision, but it taught me, like, some things are bigger than yourself. So, you got to make a sacrifice. It was a hard lesson I learned at a young age, but like sometimes you got to just do the tough thing. You got to make the hard choice. You might not I didn't understand it fully. I was angry. I was upset, but I still had to do what I had to do because it's my dad. And that's important. I think it's important to know that there were days where I was angry. There was days where I was upset, and I was, I didn't feel condemned to take care of him, but I felt like I was missing out on stuff that other kids my age were out doing. But it wasn't enough to move me from taking care of him. It wasn't enough for me to show up for him every single day, because he showed up for me every single day as long as he could. So it was the least I could do at the end. And I'm glad I did in hindsight. But at the time, like I said, there were good days, there were bad days. And there were days where I didn't really feel like, giving his medication 3 times a day, making sure he got his meals. He was also a diabetic. I had to cook certain foods. I didn't know what foods to cook. No internet back then. I had to go to the library. I go to doctors. I had to go with him to his doctor's appointments and ask questions. He couldn't ask questions because he started losing his voice. So just having being that support system is not it sounds good to say it, but the truth of the matter is it was really, really challenging, really hard. And there were days where I didn't want to do it. Days where I just didn't, but I still did it anyway. You do what you got to do for your family, for your dad. And so that was one a hard lesson that I learned early on in his as the disease progressed.
Mm-hmm. And there was another question about also supporting your other parent. So what's that like with, I know, Mike, you just said that your parents were divorcing about that same time. So what is that like to support your moms, Jaydon and Manju?
My parents, they actually separated maybe a couple years after my father's diagnosis. So just never really staying under the same roof as them. Once my pops did have Parkinson. So I don't know necessarily if I can speak on that, but just obviously her, having her worries, and her pain, just, especially once they separated, just, not leaving her out, as far as kind of like letting her know how my pops was doing, whether it was good or bad, to answer that question specifically.
Yeah, that's a lot to handle as a child. And Manju?
Yeah, my mom, my parents are both immigrants from South India, and they've both given up like a tremendous amount for me and my brother just to survive and be able to go to school and all of that, like working 16, 18-hour days, that type of thing, which I'm sure is not uncommon, but it's definitely a sacrifice to do that and show up for your children in that way. So for my mom, yeah, it's the same kind of thing where it's just being there to talk to her and be there for her in that way and support her. And it's hard in immigrant families because a lot of them don't necessarily believe in like mental health access or therapy. So, kind of serving as a therapist role, even though you're totally not licensed at all, but as a family therapist to kind of show up and be there the way you can. There's also another question in the chat about what's the best way to help your parent without making them feel helpless. This is something like I struggle with a lot of like, I don't want to baby my dad, but I also don't want him to like fall. Like literally right before this panel, he was trying to put away the garbage cans, which is so not acceptable because they're extremely heavy. So, and we just got the COVID vaccinations, which by the way, sometimes make your arm very sore, which is exciting that we got them, but
yeah.
So stuff like that, where it's like, I don't want to baby my dad, but I also want him to be realistic and not push himself past his limitations to the point that he's going to get permanently injured from it. So I'd love to hear from Mike and Jaydon about how y'all have done that and kept those boundaries so that you aren't babying your parent, but you're also, I don't know, for me, it's just kind of talking it through with my dad and be like, do you feel like you can do this? And if not, like, can I help you? Like, I feel like the only thing I can really do is ask him if I can help him in that situation.
There's a balance.
Iris, can I ask just a quick question to Manju real quick?
Yeah.
Both my parents are immigrants as well, and that's why I was just nodding at a lot of that. And one of the questions that I have is, or at least where our family is, my mom has Parkinson's and she's got diagnosed in 2008 as well. She was 59, so she's older. And that makes both my parents very old, not very old, but older now. And I notice how quickly my father is aging, taking care of my mom. And she's now definitely, like, they're probably within a year, max 2 of needing an in-home caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
And same, getting someone like that, it's just been a battle because I just see how hard my dad is working. And then there's a little bit of the blame game, but it's like, I'm trying to figure out what's the right way to, because they're, it's like, you don't pay for something you can do yourself.
Yeah.
And it's becoming beyond that now. And have you had those conversations on what that will be like? Or,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, sorry.
No, I said, do you know what I mean? Like, have you guys, because I would love to get your feedback because it is a cultural thing along with it.
Yeah. My mom right now is able-bodied and able to take care of my dad in that way, but I definitely see the toll that it's taking on her. Like you said, like it's a parent, like it's a lot, especially after raising 2 children. Like it's an additional duty. And I don't think my mom sees it as anything other than a duty. Like, you know, you take care of your family, and that's like part of what you signed up for. Like Mike said, like, yeah, sometimes you might feel like you're missing out on stuff, but it's your duty at the end of the day because that person shows up for you. But I haven't talked to them yet, but I was like, should we get like this would obviously cost a lot, but like the chair that moves up the staircase, because my dad's like started using not just a cane, but a full walker to walk. He's in his late 70s. So age as well as the progression of the disease is playing a part in his physicality. So we're thinking about installing that, but even that, I think my parents are a little hesitant because it seems like babying in a way. And it's like, no, I just want the best for y'all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely is a balance, caring for a parent. Jaydon, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just say, I mean, kind of saying the same thing as them, is that not that it's your obligation, but I mean, that's kind of how we all look at it, because, you know, that's our father. That's the reason that we get to experience everything we ever got to experience in life is because of him. You know, so now I kind of look at it like now it's my turn. I mean, same thing with me now, having this opportunity to pursue, you know, the NFL. I look at it as like it's my turn, you know, to be able to make money to put that back into the Brian Grant Foundation, or help in whatever ways, or just bring awareness, you know, using my platform in any ways. So like they said, not that it's your obligation, but, you know, those people that took care of you, especially your parents, you're obviously going to do whatever it takes, or do whatever you can to help them out in any way.
I'm trying to read some of the questions here too. And if anyone, like Charlene, if you want to jump in and ask your question, feel free. You can definitely unmute and unvideo if you want. Yeah, I think the having the other parent and your siblings being able to communicate about not necessarily behind their back, but, you know, being able to talk about what's happening, because I think that's, you know, you may ask your dad, how are you doing today? And they can say fine, but it's like, well, what's really, you know, you kind of have to keep peeling that away. And so whether it's asking your mom or your other, you know, your other siblings that are there with them and finding out some more of that detail, and then also probably defining what your role in that is. I know within siblings, you may have someone that's more assertive and more blunt. You may have a sibling that's more caring, more funny. So it's just finding that the role in that conversation about what needs to get done and who's best to maybe deliver that message. Yeah, and if you guys see any of the chat questions too.
Somebody asked, does Medicare/Medicaid and Obamacare cover the cost of Parkinson's medicines? I don't know that answer.
Yeah, just jumping in for the most part, you know, they are covered. I mean, it is difficult. The population of Parkinson's still is older than 60, usually is on Medicare. Sadly, the treatments for Parkinson's haven't changed a whole lot, so they are usually covered under the government funding programs. Still, access to care is an issue, particularly when we talk about allied health and some of the other interventions that are known to really support symptom management. And David, I swear after this, I'm sending you a bunch of info because I think you.
I'm just like, this is just so crazy because this is my first Parkinson's like support convening or whatever you call it. My colleague sent it to me, and I'm like, I was clueless on all this, but I'm just a huge policy, and this is my research area. So yes,
yeah,
please
no, this
do.
is really exciting. I just want to say, I do want to say, it's really exciting because I think just as an aside, a couple of advocacy things have really started pushing forward. One is the Michael J. Fox Foundation has a unified Parkinson's advocacy council that the Brian Grant Foundation is a part of. They have a Parkinson's policy forum coming up in March. It is open to everyone. I think having young blood in there is very important. Having a different voice in there is very important. So I want to make sure after this call that everybody has that information about UPAC and that Hill Day which I believe is last week in March. The second, and that's really advocating at the legislation level for policies that directly affect research toward cures, access to care, and other improvements in quality of life for people with Parkinson's. The second one, which is so that one's led by an organization with the support of organizations like the Brian Grant Foundation. The second thing that just opened up is called PD Avengers, and that is actually a patient-led group. So that's a number of people with Parkinson's who have started this advocacy group to do more along the lines. It's still research, still access to care, still better treatments, but it's also the day-to-day things that you were talking about, accessibility for people in walkers and wheelchairs or who have mobility issues, other things to that effect. And they are asking people to sign up. The Brian Grant Foundation has also signed on to support that advocacy group, and that's at pdavengers.com. But definitely don't want people to miss out. If you are interested in supporting at the legislative level, you for sure want to check out the Parkinson's Policy Forum. It's once a year, every March, and it's coming up this March for the first time. It's virtual, so you don't even have to fly to DC to participate. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, and there's a
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
There's a great book called Ending Parkinson's Disease, and we just had one of the co-authors, Dr. Ray Dorsey. He spoke on Tuesday about preventing Parkinson's. Oh,
it is by my desk at all times.
Katrina has a copy.
It's an incredible book.
Yeah, highly recommend it. It just takes you back almost 200 years around Parkinson's and disease, and the study of it really being related to the environment, whether it's looking at banning chemicals, things like that. So definitely check out endingpd.org as well. Great for advocacy, putting your name on things, finding out who to contact when it comes to just preventing Parkinson's in the future. I realize that you all have a parent who has the disease, so there's not much prevention at this point, but maybe even thinking about yourself, what's the likelihood maybe of you? Is it genetic? Is it environment? Just there's a lot of factors related to that. And I think the book really, every time we talk about it or read about it, I think people are just like, what? I didn't know that. And then there's a great step-by-step at the end of the book talking about advocacy, and that's where coming together as one unified Parkinson's voice, like breast cancer awareness or drunk driving awareness, and really becoming one. So the PD Avengers is that's what they're working toward, is creating a global alliance to make change around some of the environmental causes of not just Parkinson's, but other neurological diseases and cancer. So it's shocking. So, but I do recommend that book as well.
Just to the couple of people who are talking here about some of the stuff about Monsanto and Roundup and some of the products, you definitely want to read this book. It talks very in depth about pesticides, about chemical exposures. I urge everyone, if you didn't get a chance to join us last Tuesday, to watch Dr. Dorsey's talk. It is eye-opening and very important to hear what we believe is driving the increases in Parkinson's. That's available on our website. And then the PD Avengers. So, but yes, David's, the other people that are commenting over here about the pesticides, it is a big deal. And the book does outline it pretty strongly, the case for it.
And I think if, you maybe even ask your parent if, their history of where they might have think they got it. I know Brian, Jaydon's dad, he talks about working in the tobacco fields in Ohio when he was a child or a teenager. So he suspects that was probably something to do with it. So yeah, endingpd.org, Ending Parkinson's Disease is the book. So, and they're coming out with a paperback version March 16th. So recommend that. And of course, the Brian Grant Foundation, not sure how you all found us tonight, but I'm so glad you're here. But yeah, we have just a plethora of information on our website when it comes to nutrition, exercise. We are also launching a mental health conference on May 1st as a way to start looking at the mental health of not just the person with Parkinson's, but also you all or caregivers. So looking at mindfulness, yoga, and some of the things that are happening in the brain. So that's also on May 1st. Let's see. I guess in closing, do you three have, why don't you just go around? Jaydon, you want to close with something?
Yeah, I just wanted to answer a question real quick that I saw in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
It pertains, kind of everybody in here. Does anybody else find it hard? It's from Robin. Does anybody else find it hard to be a supportive, active listener, but also need some boundaries so you don't spend all day worrying? And that kind of just resonated with me a little bit. I can remember my freshman and sophomore years of college, just not even, didn't go to no parties or anything like that. Didn't, hang around with my teammates every single weekend. I was going back home. I was going to check on my dad to make sure he was okay. And I realized that, it just became normal for me, like we've all been talking about. It just became what I had to do, and it also became what I would rather be doing anyway, making sure that my pops is straight. But when I look back on it, I didn't realize how much of a toll it was actually taking on me. I kind of shut myself out from, all my teammates, some of my family members at the time. I remember my brother Elijah I didn't really want to call him and let him know, yeah, Dad's been struggling a little bit. Because he was all the way in California. I didn't want to put that on him. So I kind of just took it all on myself. And I just thought it was kind of important to bring that up, just to let you know that there's somebody else out there that goes through that too. Mm-hmm. Kind of, takes all that pain and puts it on yourself, because in a way you kind of feel selfish for thinking about yourself a little bit, right? Like who am I to worry about, how I'm feeling, based off something that my parent is going through. You know what I'm saying? So you don't really focus on yourself. But the point of it was just, it's okay. Like, it's okay to focus on yourself. And it's okay to have moments where I just need to take a deep breath, and I need to make sure I'm good. Because, if you're good and you're not right, how are you supposed to, best help your loved one or whoever's going through it, or whoever, you're connected with who has people. So just, you deserve it. You deserve to take the time to focus on yourself, to make sure you're, all right too. Other people as much as you guys all do. So I guess I just want to say also thank you guys all for being here. I admire all you guys, just seeing all you guys so engaged. Me being a particularly young person, it really is encouraging me, to get more involved, to get more involved, like you all are as well. And to just continue to, all fight this fight together. So thank you.
Thank you, Jaydon. Manju, anything closing?
Yeah. First of all, I never knew about the link between pesticides and Parkinson's, like the onset of Parkinson's. My dad grew up on farmland in India and has been in agriculture his entire life. And then when my mom moved here and married my dad, she got into the agricultural field, and they work with farmers every day. So that's super interesting. And I will definitely be looking into that more, because I had no idea the connection until it was brought up today. So thank you for that. And then, I think just like echoing Jaydon, I definitely catch myself, like anytime I'm not at home, I am with my dad, like I catch myself worrying or feeling really guilty that I'm not doing more, like I'm not spending more quality time with him, or I'm not being an outlet for him more, or like he asked me to help him play piano, like to learn how to play piano, and we haven't done that yet, so I feel bad about that. Like just all these little things, I think also just comes with having an older parent and being a younger kid, where you just kind of have this like guilt. And so it was like cathartic to hear that it's okay to release some of that guilt and not hold on to it so hard. So I'll be trying to employ that more, and I encourage you to try to employ that more, because that guilt isn't necessarily always healthy. Like sometimes it is, but sometimes it's just inhibiting like the relationship that you could have with your parent or your other caregivers. So thank you for being here. This was super cool and enlightening. And thank you to the Brian Grant Foundation for making this event possible.
Absolutely. Mike?
Yeah, so glad to be here. Thank you all. Jaydon, Manju, you guys are great, and you guys are getting after some really, really awesome things. Gonna do great things in this world. I hope you got an astronaut in the NFL, man. You guys, that's great. That's awesome.
And you too.
But yeah, going back.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna piggyback on what Jaydon was saying about not feeling guilty and taking care of yourself. I saw that question too, and I mean that really resonated with me as well. And when I left for the service, I felt guilty of going to chase some of the things I want to do in my life, but then I realized my dad, he always encouraged me just to live my life with purpose, and doing the thing that I felt guilty about was the one thing that he wanted me to go out and do. And it took me a long time to realize that my dad was really stubborn. He didn't really like to ask for help. It was like pulling teeth trying to get him to say what he needed or what he wanted. So, just having to navigate through that, sometimes you're going to feel that, with the active listening, part of the active listening is not personalizing what the other person is saying to you and just listen, and that's an important role. I found myself in that role between my family when my parents were separated. My mom was asking me about my dad, all my siblings. I was kind of like that person. So trying not to personalize what their feelings were from the outside and just being an ear and listening to them and giving them the reassurance they need was so important. And I think that's so an important role for that.
I just wanted to quickly jump in to just say I'm seeing so many people over here with their comments, and it is so similar, people sharing experiences. And that's why we started this program, was because we know a lot of the people who have a parent with Parkinson's, and we know you all have special needs. And I just wanted to say, we started this program last year. We are still developing this program. We are eager to hear from you about what would serve you best. If this kind of format, setting up these types of groups helps you, if there are topics you'd like us to better explore, if there are things that we can do to help you, we would like to be able to grow this program and really make it useful to address what we know are a lot of the issues you face. So I just wanted to jump in to say, please do keep, we'd like this to be a two-way conversation where you also help us understand what it is you need and how we can help you.
Definitely. It's definitely in infancy and under development. So it's now online. So, which is good and bad. We can connect more broadly in the world and in different time zones. So we picked this evening. We also had gotten some feedback that like a noon time is a little tough for us because we're all working and maybe our parent is not, but so we tried to pick a time that was after hours so that hopefully we could get more people to attend, but still under development. I know that Nicole over in the chat is putting in some of her information, but briangrant.org is the website, info@briangrant.org. If you have any ideas, if you want to connect, I think someone said Slack as a chat. So we'll develop some sort of connection, support group, support time. And maybe that's what it is. It's just a drop in and we can all just go around and talk about what's happening. So with that, it is 7 o'clock and don't want to keep anyone much longer. Again, appreciate everybody's time. Tonight was sponsored by Amneal, so one of our sponsors here at the Brian Grant Foundation. So thank you to Amneal for their support of the Kids of Parkinson's program. Thank you all for your time tonight. And of course, our presenters. So give you all your parents a big hug and be well, and we'll be in touch for the next meetup. So have a good night.
Guys.
All
Thank
right.
you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.